Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Mike Vukovcan here. We're not in the Beaver County Audio Studios. We're in my studio, which means my home and my basement. But normally, all of our Pittsburgh Sports Live material is shot out of our Pittsburgh studio, which is sponsored by Beaver County Auto and PJ Latsko. And PJ, we always appreciate your support of what we're doing here. And what I'm doing here now is talking a little Pitt football. They're in a in-between period right now, meaning we're 2 weeks away from the 2019 recruiting class, but also if you've been following our coverage this week between myself, Alan Saunders, and Harry Pissarros, the coaches are all around making offers, and for the most part a lot in Florida. We'll get to that later on in the show. I also have some news about 2020 that I haven't seen reported yet, so I hesitate to use the word exclusive, but we'll tell you some stuff that I'm sure you'll find interesting. We'll also talk about 2019 targets, wide receiver coach, stuff like that. But I'm going to start off talking about the news of the week, which was the hire of Mark Whipple. I don't know Mark. I remember him when he was with the Steelers. I covered him briefly when I was over at KDK TV. He was Ben Roethlisberger's, obviously. He was first quarterback coach. The first thing that stands out about him in his resume is his work that he does with quarterbacks. He's regarded as a tremendous developer of the quarterback, and that's huge. And from what we saw last year, that's been something that needs to happen for Pitt to get to that next level. Mark Whipple, while some people might worry about he's not going to be a recruiter and all this and his age and whatever, there's no question that the guy is able to develop quarterbacks, and that's his job this year with Kenny Pickett, Davis Bevel, and Nick Patty. Those are going to be his projects this year, and especially Kenny Pickett. He's going to have to take Kenny to that next level that I think he can get to, and with better play calling and possibly a better quarterback coach, I think Kenny can get there. And I'm not going to give any evaluation of the hire because I don't know Mark Whipple. All I know is the two things that stand out on paper to him about him is that he can develop quarterbacks, and no matter what offense team he's with, his offenses produce. They produce yards and they produce points. And isn't that the job? Isn't that in the end how we're going to judge any offensive coordinator? So I know Matt Canada, some other names were brought up. I don't have a problem with Mark Whipple. I know I've seen a lot of the recruiting thing. Well, he's going to be like, and I asked this when I talked to a UMass beat writer. If you remember back when Matt Cavanaugh was here, he was Dave Wannstedt's offensive coordinator. He was a guy that wasn't really big into recruiting. He didn't like to leave the building. His job in his mind, I believe, was that he wanted to prepare for the upcoming week. He wanted to develop his players in the building. He wasn't big in the recruiting. And I don't want to label Mark Whipple that yet, because let's be honest, he was at UMass, which isn't a Power 5 program. He was there for a few years. He did well offensively. And then for the most part, he was at a couple years with Miami, but other than that, he's been a lot in the NFL. So I don't know that anyone could draw definite conclusions about Mark Whipple as a recruiter until he has to do it. And now he's going to do it here. So we'll see. If he develops the quarterback and Kenny Pickett has a better year than he did last year, and the offensive scores points, I don't know that too many Pitt fans are going to be complaining too much about Mark Whipple's offense. I think he'll get out, his recruiting. He'll get out when he has to, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's too early for anyone to judge whether it was a good hire or not, as is the case with everything. We'll see at the end of the year how things look, and then we're able to give it a grade. Speaking of recruiting, let's get into 2019 recruiting for Pitt. To be honest, they don't have a lot of spots left, and for the February 6th second signing day, which is sort of a downer now. It used to be big, but now with the December signing period, the luster is kind of taken away a little bit. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of activity, to be honest with you. I think max Pitt is going to get 2 signings. If you ask me, how many more players is Pitt going to take this year? I'm going to go with 3 to 4, and I'm going to go with obviously they want MJ Devonshire. He's target number 1. I think they might try to take, and this is why I go 3 to 4. They might try to take one other person, and I don't know that they have targeted either offense or defense, one or the other. Brian Ugwa, a guy from New Jersey, the guy that can play both offense and defense, is a guy I believe they're still interested in. It's kind of hard to get a hold of him to find out what's going on, but the last time I did, he definitely had interest in Pitt, and he was going to sign on February 6th. But since then, I haven't really been able to get a hold of him. I've tried, haven't been able to, but I think Pitt's still in on him. And other than that, I look for them to take 2 transfers, 1 to 2 transfers, definitely a tight end, and I think an offensive lineman. And they've done that. They've been pretty consistent with that the last few years, taking tackles, and I think they're going to try to do that again. As far as what transfers they're going to go, I have a few names written down here. Earlier in the week, or maybe it was last week, these days are getting all mixed up here, but I told you that I was able to confirm that they did reach out to tight end. He's from Ohio. His name's Eli Wolf. He's transferring from Tennessee. Played a little bit last year. I think he might be along the lines of the Matt Flanagan when they got him a few years ago from Rutgers. They reached out to him. He kind of told me he wanted to keep a low profile on this and didn't want to do too much talking about what his future is, so I respect that, and but I'm still going to try to find out information from him. But he did tell me that he had been in contact with Pitt, and that's where it stood from there. I also am led to believe that they made some contact with a 4 to 5-star offensive tackle named Drew Richmond. He's played the last couple of years at Tennessee. He's also put his name in the transfer portal. No decision. He hasn't decided whether he's staying or going, but he's looking, and I believe Pitt has been in contact with him. Another guy that I found out a couple days ago that they have some interest in is a Pennsylvania guy. They originally tried to recruit him, Nazir Upshur. He's from Philadelphia. He was a 4-star guy, went to Florida State. Hasn't had much success there, hasn't actually got much playing time down there. He was a big-time recruited by every big school in the country coming out of Philadelphia a few years ago. He's been 3 years at Florida State, and he makes a little bit of sense in the sense that he could be coming home to Pennsylvania. He can get on the field, which he hasn't been able to do at Florida State, and if he hasn't been able to do it by now, I don't know what leads him to believe that he's going to be able to do it this year with them struggling, and they're probably going to try to get some new blood onto the field. And the other thing is I know he's familiar with some of the with at least a few of the players on Pitt, so we'll see how that works. And the other guy this is just a guess, but a right tackle from Michigan. His name is Nolan Uliozo. He's a right tackle. He's also from Ohio. I know the Pitt coaches are following him via Twitter. He's not a big Twitter guy. He's not a big social media guy, so it's sort of been hard to try to find out if anything is going there. But he also did put his name into the transfer portal we'll see how that goes. I've been working that, trying to find out what's going on there, but it makes sense for him. He's leaving. He's definitely going to leave Michigan. He's from Ohio, wants to play. He started, I believe, 7 games in 2017, and then Jim Harbaugh benched him or replaced him with somebody else, and he hasn't started since. He got some playing time last year, but didn't start. So we'll have to see what happens there. But those are names to watch, and of course the big one is MJ Devonshire. Everyone knows his story by now. In case you haven't been following this week, I think we've had as much on his situation as anyone in town. Deal with him was West Virginia seemed to be his front runner months ago until they got a few commitments. They got quiet with him, stopped recruiting him. Pitt has been recruiting him ever since, and I think that's helped Pitt out. And as of late, Penn State's made some noise as far as trying to contact him. Yesterday, he received a new offer from Kentucky. USC was showing some interest. They were supposed to come in on Thursday, but didn't. So I would assume that is going to eliminate them, because I was told that unless a coach personally talks, meaning face-to-face with him, he's not going to really take him that serious. And I don't believe he even has an offer from them. So that could be dead. I guess the one school to keep an eye on is Ole Miss. They were in this week to see him. He does have, as far as I know, it's his last official visit. He's not, wasn't at least scheduled to go anywhere today. He was supposed to be in Ohio State, but that, I believe they also filled up their allotment as far as defensive backs, and I don't know that they're recruiting him as well. So Ole Miss, they were in, they're coaching their defensive backs coach, and he is taking an official visit there, at least is scheduled to next weekend. So if you, the way I see things right now, it's between Pitt, Ole Miss, West Virginia, just because I believe Neil Brown is trying to get back in on him after Dana Holgorsen stopped recruiting him, and I believe he wants to take another defensive back. We'll see how receptive MJ is to that. But as I've said since December, and I'll stay with this, I think MJ Devonshire's come to Pitt. Haven't been told that by him or anyone in his family. Just a gut feeling. I think the way Pitt has recruited him ever since they offered him a couple months ago, it's been steady, it's been hard. They were there a couple days ago, Rob Harley, Archie Collins, and I believe they'll do that up until February when he announces. I just think it makes sense. I think they're going to find a place for him on defense, and he'll get a chance to play early. And I believe also they're going to find a way to work him in an offense along the lines of Quadri Henderson, which I think is something appealing to him. And of course, everyone knows his punt return abilities, and Pitt could use that as well. So I definitely think he's going to find a way to get on the field a lot at Pitt. He's going to be able to stay close to his family. And he has a lot of friends at Pitt. Not that it makes a huge difference, but it makes a little bit of a difference, comfort level. And he's a social media. He's aware of what's going on. And I wouldn't doubt in the back of his mind, he sees the love he gets from Pitt fans as far as anytime anything goes out with him. I think he knows he feels wanted here, probably more so than any other program. And I think that makes an impact. I don't know that he's going to say that, but I think it does in the end. I just think come February 6th, I think he might, from what I understand, he might, if he makes a decision before then, he might alert the coach that he's going to commit there to whatever school he does. I'm not saying Pitt, and then the plan is to make his announcement official on February 6th. He's not going to do anything prior to that, but he will alert the coach that he commits to that he's going there, and then we'll go from there. Talked about Mark Whipple, wide receiver coach. Who are they going to hire? That's real hard to figure out. One thing that we've known in the 4 years of Pat Narduzzi's tenure here is that getting any information out as far as coaching searches and who he's talking is extremely hard. If you find anything, hats off to you, because it's very difficult. He keeps information locked down, and I don't blame him. Two names that were spread around a little bit through various places were Adam DeMichael from Stowe Rocks. Although that name was out there, from what I understand, he hasn't spoken to Pitt at all. I'm very confident about that. I'll just leave it at that, but you probably know where I'm going with that. He hasn't spoken with Pitt. They haven't spoken to him, as far as from my understand. So I would not be looking into that. Another name that I brought up just because it makes a little bit of sense is Leonard Hankerson. He's a guy you might remember, played at Miami for the U, had a few years in the NFL, I believe 4 or 5 years in the NFL, got drafted by the Washington Redskins. He was the current, he started last year with Mark Whipple as his wide receiver coach up in UMass. Knows Mark Whipple. This is nothing I know, I'm just trying to see if things make sense here. He worked with Mark Whipple last year, but a couple factors that I think are big for him are that he's from Miami. He went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School. Everyone knows Pitt's recruiting base in Florida, and that's a school that every year produces boatloads of Division I talent. He's known down in the Miami area. And the other thing is he's young. He's a 31-year-old guy. I think he can relate to players today. He's played in the league. I think that would be a smart hire. We'll see how that goes. Don't know where Pat's going with that. I would expect it to be announced probably sometime before Junior Day, so when kids start coming in, because I don't think it makes much of it's not going to have much of an impact now, but for the 2019 class, because it's pretty wrapped up, so there's not really a hurry for him to get in. But by the time they really start going out recruiting for 2020, you're obviously going to want your coach in there. So we'll see what happens, but from what I understand, I think he would be interested in the job, obviously. It would be a big jump from UMass to Pitt, and we'll see how it goes, but Leonard Hankerson is a name to keep an eye on. Just in case you're just tuning in here, Beaver County Auto is our sponsor normally for our Pittsburgh Sports Live material. In case you're not following us yet on YouTube, subscribe. We're having a lot of great content up. Mike Asti, Dan Kongursky, Alan Saunders, the gang, everyone. We're putting up a lot of material after games, before games, shows. We're going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this for the most part from here in my home office, and we appreciate your support as we have all week. I want to thank, before I get to a little bit of news I'm going to bring up here, is that the traffic we got on Pittsburgh Sports Now this week, tremendous, and it's really encouraging to everyone at the site, knowing that it was a big week. Pitt basketball, big win, a lot of Pitt football news. Our traffic is, we had a 3-day stretch. It was the best in our 3+ years on the site, and more people are finding out about us, more people are trusting us, and we definitely appreciate that, and it encourages us, and I think it motivates us to do a little bit better, so we appreciate your support. One thing I'm going to bring up now is I don't think this has been out anywhere, and it has to do with recruiting, is Junior Day. And I've found out that Pitt's Junior Day is going to be February 2nd, and that's a little unusual because it's going to be before their second National Signing Day. I was able to confirm that through a few recruits actually who told me they're going, and I'll get to those guys in a second. But it's a little bit funny in that it's before the National Signing Day, and I think a couple of reasons for that. Number one, like I said, February 6th is going to be kind of a low-key day for Pitt. I don't think there's going to be much going on aside from obviously they're hoping to get a commitment from Devonshire and maybe one other kid. But as far as the transfers go, I don't think that could be official until they graduate. So we'll see how that goes. But I was talking to Alan Saunders about this last night. For some reason, I believe last year when Pitt had their junior day, it went up against a couple other programs sort of in the area. And I'm not sure if it was West Virginia, Ohio State, somebody. And I think it affected some of the kids that wanted to come, and they had to pick between. So I think it's a smart move. I'm not sure if that's the case. I'm not sure the thinking of doing it a lot earlier than they normally do. I think a lot of times it's at the end of February. Now it's the first weekend in February. It's going to be the day of a Pitt-Syracuse game, and with the way Pitt's playing right now, it should be a good atmosphere at the Pete, and I think if you can avoid at all costs possibly going up against, I don't know when Ohio State or Penn State or West Virginia are going to have theirs, but if you could have your own weekend and you can get those kids on your campus, it's a good move. And as far as who's coming, bear with me, I'm going to read off the paper here. As far as some names that I've confirmed that will be coming got the invitation and they're going to be coming are A.J. Beatty from Central Catholic, Josh Rawlings, big tight end out of Woodland Hills, Akeem Snell, really talented athlete from Penn Hills, two pair of brothers, twins, Amar and Amir Allen from Central Catholic, they're defensive linemen, and Bo Braid, a guy that has an offer, defensive player from Clarksville, Maryland. He's going to be coming up. So those are 6 players that I've confirmed. As far as some guys that are hoping to come and they got the invitation, and they have to just make sure it fits into their schedule because a lot of these guys play 2 sports. One of them is Michael Carmody, the 4-star tackle out of Mars. He wants to come. He has to make sure he doesn't have a basketball game or tournament or something that weekend. Another guy is a guy that's really starting to get popular. Picked up a big offer yesterday. Nakai Hill Green from North Catholic, and also Tui Brown from Gateway. Those are guys that received local guys that got offers, and they're hoping to come, but they haven't confirmed yet. One other guy that, and this is a guy to keep an eye on, Pitt is on him a lot from what I understand, talking to him last night, Anthony Rumpf, and if I pronounced your last name, mispronounce your name, I apologize. But he's a quarterback, left-handed quarterback out of Southfield, Michigan. He's had a offer from Pitt for quite some time. Really good athlete, strong arm. He has a Pitt offer. He wants to come. It's obviously not like traveling from Robinson to Oakland. He has to get here from Michigan. So he's trying to work it out with his parents that they bring him. But if not, he said he's definitely going to be here sometime soon, but he wants to come for Junior Day. He recently just got an offer from Michigan. So I know Archie Collins, Pitt's Michigan recruiter, was in contact with Anthony twice last week. They're on him a lot, but you just have to get worried about when Michigan offers and gets involved. It just seems 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, those kids, if they have an offer from Michigan or Michigan State, they stay home. But Pitt is definitely recruiting him. 2 other guys to keep an eye on are they're not going to come. They got an invitation, but they're going to be up soon. Is Charles Bell. He's a wide receiver, defensive back from Maryland. He told me he's going to be up soon with his mother. He has an offer from Pitt, and if you want I'm not going to go on record yet, but if you want a guy to look at that could be an early commitment from Pitt from 2020. I would throw Charles Bell in there. He seems to like Pitt a lot. We'll see. They offered him early. Seems to be very interested in Pitt. We'll see how that visit goes when he comes up with his mother. But that's something to keep an eye on. Another guy, and the last guy, this is an interesting one, another guy from Michigan, and as I just mentioned, it's going to be extremely hard, but I talked to him this morning. He's a big-time receiver. His name is Rashawn Williams. He's a 4-star receiver from Martin Luther King High School, has over 30-plus offers, LSU, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Nebraska, West Virginia, huge list. He told me he can't come up for Junior Day, but he's been in touch with Archie Collins, and he plans on coming up soon with a bunch of his teammates. And that's something that happens a lot. We've seen that a lot. Unfortunately for Pitt, it hasn't resulted in a lot of commitments, but he does want to come up and check out the facilities. So, once again, Pitt Junior Day, I was able to confirm it hasn't been out anywhere yet, but it's going to be February 2nd. And another thing I found out through a couple of recruits, and I haven't found out any that are 100% going, Pitt is trying to bring some football players to Tuesday's game against Duke. Obviously, that's going to be quite a scene, sellout crowd. In the past, it's always been a big recruiting tool for the Pitt football program to get in with the basketball program. And obviously, the last couple of years, they haven't been able to do that with their lack of success. But now that things seem to be in the upswing with Jeff Capel, look for Pat Narduzzi to try to use these Saturdays or big basketball games as a way of bringing in players. And from what I understand, they're trying to bring in some players for Tuesday night, unofficial visit, whatever, however that works within the NCAA rules and all that. And I would imagine that Jeff Capel is also going to try to bring in some players as well. Questions. I'm going to get to some questions here. I asked that on Twitter, and then I'm going to get into some 2020 recruiting, touch upon possibly Lamont Wade, and wrap things up here. But I got a few questions via Twitter that I'm going to ask. First question is, PCC fan, chances Pitt can get Carmody, Beatty, Hill Green, Michael Carmody. I would say that the chances are, I kind of put him in the category of not completely like this, but Andrew Christophic from Pine Richland, who went to Notre Dame. I just don't see Pitt. He's going to get in. He's got already a ton of big offers. His brother goes to Notre Dame. I would imagine Notre Dame's going to be offering soon. Pitt's going to do their best I think Pitt has a little bit better chance with him than they did with Andrew. I don't know. Maybe they can get to him somehow as far as selling him on something. Maybe Notre Dame doesn't offer, but he has a lot of big offers. I wouldn't look for that to happen. Maybe something will change. I don't know, but Pitt's going to definitely try to recruit him. They'll try their ass off to recruit him, but we'll see what happens. I don't know that they're going to be successful. As far as the other guys go, I think Pitt's going to have a chance with them, and I do think eventually Pitt is going to offer those two. They haven't offered yet. A.J. Beatty, the big defensive end from Central Catholic, I believe he's up to 11 plus offers right now. Some smaller Division I schools, I'm not sure yet. Guys, all these offers sort of run into each other. I don't believe he has a Power 5 offer yet, but I think it's only a matter of time until that happens. I think he's a really good player, and I think I'm going to get into some of the juniors here in a little bit here, but I think he's a guy that wouldn't shock me at all if he gets an offer soon or possibly during a summer camp. Same with Hill Green. Pitt, Corey Sanders was actually at North Catholic yesterday, as we reported. He's a guy that got an offer from Duke yesterday. He also has an offer previously from Boston College. He's a big guy. I saw him play last year in person. He's a big-time athlete, and I think before the end of the year, he's going to be a guy that is going to have his fair share of offers, and in particular Power 5 offers. And I believe he's getting recruited, as a safety, but I think he has the athletic ability to play anywhere, and I think that Pitt's going to get on him, no doubt, and it wouldn't shock me if maybe they offer him at the junior day. And I think where that might be, people wondering when are these junior offers coming. It wouldn't. Coaches sometimes like to do that in person. I don't think there's a rush to get an offer out, and if they can do it face to face when they're on, in their facility, could happen. Wouldn't shock me if it happens, but I definitely think that an offer will be coming to those two guys. And once it happens, sure. Well, why? I think Pitt can definitely land them. Jeff Myers, seems like Pitt is under a lot of transfers, which means someone has to leave. Which players do you think are going to be leaving? As I mentioned, I think Pitt's going to try. We'll see if they're successful, but I think they're going to try to get two. Right now, I believe they're right at their scholarship limit, or they might be one under. So, yeah, I think there's going to have to be some attrition from the roster. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I have a guess. I'm going to give you positions that I could see somebody leaving. I'm not going to go ahead and name players. I could see a wide receiver leaving, possibly two. I've heard some rumors in the last couple weeks about some possible movement with linebackers. And it wouldn't shock me at all if, just somebody in the secondary that maybe sees their playing time maybe not there in this coming season, getting passed up by a younger classman. An underclassman, and they just might want to play. So I could definitely see, and I've been trying to keep tabs on the transfer portal with a source of mine, and as of 2 days ago, don't want to bug him every day, but as of 2 days ago, Pitt didn't have anyone entering it, but obviously that could change any minute, and I look for that to happen. And a lot of times, that'll happen later on. So, but I could see, as I mentioned, a wide receiver, possibly two, possibly an offensive lineman maybe after the spring. If they bring in a veteran offensive tackle, for instance, and maybe somebody that's on the roster that was hoping to play, once again, doesn't see a window for themselves to play. Maybe they decide to move on after spring practice, and depending on where they place on the depth chart. So I could see that as being a possibility, and look for that to be happening in the next month or so. Make Pitt great again. On Twitter, why has Daquan Hardy from Penn Hills not been offered? We've gotten that question a lot. I think bottom line is I don't think Pitt has room for him. I think him and MJ Devonshire have some similar characteristics, and they obviously, I think they just have him ranked higher than Hardy. You're just not going to have room for both of them. They don't have the room. They don't have the scholarship for that. They have very few to begin with. And I think actually Devonshire, if they find out prior to him leaving or to him announcing that he is not going to go to Pitt, then maybe they'll try to get in with him late or try to recruit another athlete. But I think their sole intent right now is to get a commitment from Devonshire, and after that, I don't know that they're going to be taking many other 2019 defensive or offensive players. And Yinzer style question: how many 2020 WPL recruits will get Pitt offers, and which stand out? I got that ahead of time. I made up a little list here. In case you were wondering, last year this question gets brought up a lot, and a lot of the local players or local fans or people on Twitter or whatever seem to take offense to the fact that Pitt doesn't offer as many local players as they have in the past. Hey man, that's up to Pat Narduzzi. His job is to win, and if he thinks that the local players can help him win, and they're as or more talented than some of these other players in other states, he's going to offer them. He's not just offering kids just because they're from the WPIL. Last year they offered 9 players, and to this point, technically, I don't know that you count Kai Wright. He's not in the WPIL, but he's in Western Pennsylvania. They've gotten Kai Wright and Will Gibson, and hopefully, for their sake, they get Devonshire. They didn't get Christofic. They didn't get Michael Caddick from Pine Richland, Trent Haller from Latrobe, Joey Porter from North Allegheny, Dino Tomlin, and Javon Thrift. And I'm not sure a couple of those guys actually had Pitt offers halfway during the season, or committable offers, but we won't get into that. But they offered 9. I look at the 2020 class, Yinzer style, and they have a lot more offers, possible offers out. I could see some names to watch. You're asking, as we mentioned, Michael Carmody. They did offer quarterback Jack Salopek out of Norwin. Those are the 2 only offers that are out right now. You got other guys, Josh Rawlings, the tight end from Woodland Hills. I have no doubt that he's going to get an offer. It's just a matter of when. He's a guy that wouldn't surprise me if he gets an offer coming up at junior day. I mentioned the 2 Allen twins from Central Catholic. Nate Cornub from Butler. He's a big lineman. Could have some interest in him. Tui Brown from Gateway. I definitely think that he's a guy that's a candidate to get a Pitt offer. Nakai Hill Green from North Catholic. Talked about him. I definitely think he's a candidate. Jake Lugg, brother of Josh Lugg, current Notre Dame lineman. He's a lineman out of offensive tackle out of North Allegheny. He's a guy as well, talented enough. We talked about Beatty. Akeem Snell, I think he's going to get an offer if everything checks out, no doubt on that. And a few other guys, Dominic Thomas, lineman from South Fayette, Chase Mitchell from Washington, and a guy that I like, and I think Pitt's going to eventually pull the trigger on him. I think a lot of players, I put this guy in the same category as Nakai Hill Green, and that's Marquise Watson Trent from Blackhawk. I think he's a player that can do a lot of different things. I believe he's talented enough that he could play offense or defense. I talked to him this week, and Pitt is looking at him as a safety. They want him to come in and visit with them, and I think he's a guy that's going to get an offer. So I think you're going to be getting probably 9. I definitely think they'll get to the number that they offered last year with 9, and possibly even more. I think in a way this 2020 class might be sort of sneaky talented. Last year I had a few big names with, this year's class with Porter, Devonshire, and Kristovic, and Gibson and toward the end. But other than that, I think it was a little bit of a down year, and that's not a negative. I'm just saying compared to other years. But I think 2020, there's a little bit more overall talent, and I think Pitt's going to get in on that, and we'll see how all that works out. But that's the last question for that. Last thing I want to bring up is the offer. We've been keeping track of that. Alan Saunders, Harry Paceros, and I. Right now, Pitt has over 125 plus offers out to juniors. Past week, they've just been, particularly in Florida, they already have 46 offers out to players in Florida. And I know people, why do they go down there? Because they have talent down there. They have boatloads of talent. Every kid down there can't go to Florida and Florida State and Miami. So why not go there? And I think that's what Pat Narduzzi's doing, and I think they've had a good track record. If you look at their signings the last few years, so why not keep doing it? And you have coaches on their staff that have ties down there. In particular, the Florida guru, Charlie Partridge. Tim Salem does a hell of a job down there, as does Rob Harley. So if it's not broke, don't fix it, or whatever the saying goes. But one thing that I'm just going to end it with this is that I've been thinking about this with these new ACC coaches. It's going to get a little bit harder with some of these states that Pitt has attempted over the last few years to recruit. And by that I mean North Carolina, Georgia, Maryland, and Michigan. Michigan doesn't have any new coaches, but I question some, I go back and forth on this. I just wonder sometimes whether or not they waste their time trying to recruit that state. And there's been no results on their part as far as the time they put in there. And I know they won, Pat Narduzzi obviously coached up there. Back when he was an assistant, Thomas Sims had some ties up there. Their two coaches now in the secondary, Collins and Sanders, but they just haven't been able to land anyone. And I just wonder sometimes, are you better off either trying to get to a new state or load up more in Pennsylvania or Ohio or New Jersey? And as far as those other states, with the new coaches at Maryland, Georgia Tech, and Mac Brown in North Carolina, they didn't recruit a ton down there, the Pitt coaches. But I wonder about that too. The last couple of years, they've put a lot of emphasis on Georgia, and they really haven't gotten anything out of that state. And with Georgia, and now the new coach Jeff Collins down at Georgia Tech, it's going to be extremely hard to pull any talent out of there. And I just wonder sometimes if it might be better to come up with a new recruiting strategy for where they want to go with that, and whether or not I'm not sure if wasting time is the right word, but we'll see. But that's about it for now. We're going to, if Ryan would come over here, and we're going to wrap up the show. He's my on-site producer here. But I appreciate everyone watching this today. We're going to try to make this we're definitely going to make this a once-a-week thing. And if there's any news going on, we will get on down here and start getting on camera and letting you know. We'll try to get some more video content going on Pittsburgh Sports Live. And as I mentioned, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please do so. We're close to a big number. We need as many subscribers as possible. And all of us, Mike Asti, Dan Kingerski, Joe Staggerwald, Alan Saunders, we appreciate the support you give us, and appreciate you watching this. And I will be back again next week with more Pitt Panther talk.